Hi, Jackie. My name is Samantha. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'll be working with you today. I've been assigned your case, so we're going to do a little bit of intake information, gather some facts on what's going on with you, see how we can help, establish a plan, discuss a little bit about the plan, what we're going to implement, and then the termination process as well. Um, I again am Samantha. I am the caseworker and therapist assigned to your case as a social worker. I do want to let you know, just so you're aware, full disclosure, everything that you say in here is kept confidential unless you say that you're going to hurt yourself or someone else. I am a mandatory reporter, so I do have to report those instances, okay, just so you're aware.
Okay.
Okay, do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No, this is just my first time seeing anybody. So I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. What brings you in today?
Well, I was in the military, and when I retired, I got out of retirement because of my back and whatnot. So I've been taking narcotics for like 15 plus years.
Okay.
And my husband just thinks that I'm addicted to heroin is one thing. And I was on a whole lot of other medications. And now I'm just down to one. And it's not even every day that I take it. But he is saying that I'm addicted, that I'm a junkie, and that he just doesn't, that I'm just losing it. And I don't know. I really need, for my pain, I really need to take the medication. I don't even take it as I should because, you know, I don't know if I'm driving and I get into a wreck or something, if that's going to play a part in it or whatever. So it's not like that I am taking my medication when I'm not supposed to. But he's just beside himself that I'm a junkie.
Okay. So I want to get a little bit more information. I want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly before we move on. You're coming in today mostly because you're having some issues with with your family, with your household, your husband specifically, and it's centered around your use of the medication you're prescribed correctly. You're you're prescribed. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so I did want to ask you what your beliefs are on the medication. You said you don't really take as much as you need to because you don't want to drive impaired. But the medication is all prescribed and you're taking it as directed by the doctor. Do you feel like you have a substance use disorder or do you feel like,
No,
okay,
no, I don't feel like I have a problem with it, but he does. And it's driving a big wedge. I'm done with it. You know, every time, oh, are you taking your medication? Oh, make sure you take your medication before you go out. So he's constantly just badgering me over it.
okay. Have you had any discussions with him about your medication?
Well, it's gone past. We used to sit down and be able to talk about it, but he is just now saying that you can't talk to addicts. You can't talk to them because they just know enough. Addicts are so wrapped up in their own that he says I won't listen to his advices.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty heavy stuff, Jackie. I'm sorry that you're experiencing that in your household. That's hard to deal with.
Yeah,
Um,
it is because at times he's not taking care of his mouth. I won't take my medicine, and then I will hurt myself because then I'm trying to play catch up with my pain, and it immobilizes me. I can't do anything. And had I taken my medicine when I was supposed to, or how I was supposed to, I wouldn't have been in this situation. But I wind up going and getting myself. It's like a constant merry-go-round. I get off of it, come back right on it. Get off of it, come right back on it. So, I mean, it's driving a wedge. We don't even talk anymore
yeah.
because I refuse to talk to him where he keeps just accusing me of something that I know I'm not doing. But how do I get him? I need you to tell him that there's nothing wrong with me because he'll believe you, but he doesn't believe me because I'm a junkie.
Has he ever been involved in any kind of your treatment along the way with your medical diagnoses?
Um, well, when it happened, go with us to Germany. So he wasn't, um, at that time, he wasn't aware of it because he wasn't in the country. But then when I got back and stuff, is when it was new to him because before I left, I wasn't, taking the medication. I had just come back from war, and he thought I was just trying to get me. And I got stationed in Germany, and then like 8 years down the road, I had to start seeing, an orthopedic and my back and this and that. So when I got back, I did try to have him go with me to the appointments, and he would go with me, but then he sit out of the car away from me. You didn't go in with me. I'm like, hello, are you not coming in? No, 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 that's your appointment. Hello, you want to know? And you keep telling me that I'm something that I'm not. But then I invite you to come in with me and you don't come. So I don't, that's why I said, I'm here to make him happy because if it's to me and you ask me, I don't have a problem. But I need him to shut his mouth up because it's coming to the point that I don't want to be in the house with him anymore. I'm done with it.
That's hard when those communication barriers start to break down and you feel like you can't speak to your person, your partner, the person that you're it is intended for you to be able to have that communication with. So I definitely would love to be able to help you with this. Could we do a couple assessments? I just want to discuss a little bit more in depth the nature of the piece that he believes. So we have a criteria. It's called the DSM-5 diagnostic check through, and it just kind of discusses your use and stuff to just so we can kind of clear that piece out of the way, or if there is slight addiction pieces, we can also talk that and maybe
Oh,
talk
so
about
you're
it.
saying too, without even seeing me, without even doing anything, you're already saying that I'm an addict too?
No, Jackie, what I'm saying is that you want me to rule out the addiction piece, and I can't do that without you completing this form. So, but I don't know what the form is going to say. So I'm not going to say right off the bat, yes, you are, no, you're not. I try to use a person first language. So if you are struggling with something, maybe it's not even clear to you, that there is that, or maybe you have some other stuff going on. I just want to be able to treat you directly. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm here to help you. I don't think that are quote unquote a junkie or an addict. I just want to be able to help you and to give you a clear understanding of what you have going on as well. Would you feel comfortable filling out this form so we can kind of rule out that piece for your husband as well?
Okay, I guess so.
Okay, so just go through and answer these questions. It's just yes or no.
Okay. All of these right now? So, how long?
So if you answer no to the first three, then we don't have to finish the rest. Have you ever withdrawn from your medication?
What do you mean?
Like physically, have you ever felt physical withdrawals from your opiate use?
Like,
Like when you stop taking them? Is there
oh,
is there ever a point where you've stopped or
no, I've never stopped completely not taking them. I'm supposed to take for a day
okay,
of the short, the immediate release, and then two a day of the extended.
okay,
Um, but when I say the doctor prescribes it to me 4 times a day for one, and the other one is 2 times a day. So sometimes the 2 times a day, I might take just one,
okay,
and the one that's 4 times a day, I may just take one because I'm not really hurting that much,
okay,
and I've learned to live with the pain of five. So I'll just like then take it as directed.
okay.
But what you said, that withdrawal thing that you
Uh,
said,
okay,
so
okay.
that's no.
That's a no, yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna kind of add to your pile too. I'm just gonna start documenting your account a little bit. I do want you to do some just some general assessments that our agency does as well. Okay, so go ahead and fill these out while I document some stuff.
Okay. Okay. Now what about this one over here? Where it says um, about suicide?
Yeah, are you feeling that type of way? Are you feeling suicidal or have you ever felt suicidal in the past?
Well, sometimes he makes me just so mad that I just want to die, but I'm not suicidal. So
Um, let's talk about that a little bit more. There's a few other assessments here that go a little bit more into like your mental health status if you're feeling depressed, anxious, withdrawn, and that'll come through on the other survey too. If it is something we need to address and you have like a plan or intent to harm yourself, then we definitely want to make sure that you're safe and healthy. Sometimes when we're dealing with turmoil and stress and anxiety from our loved ones, um, being around seems like not being around seems like the easy way out, right? Or like
Definitely.
the best way to go. So, if right now you can put no on that if you don't have an active plan for suicide, but then we'll break it down on this further assessment.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's no. Okay.
All right, Jackie, thank you so much. So I'm going to get these entered. While I was reviewing your chart a little bit and kind of just what we discussed and looking over your assessments, it looks like you do have some anxiety and some depression going on, but that's definitely typical in your situation. Like we had mentioned, you're dealing with a family member that's not understanding your situation or open to understanding your situation. I know we've talked about him somewhat being involved in your care, but not really to the point where he's going in and asking questions and voicing his concerns. So I do want to give you a little bit of resources and refer you over to somebody just to kind of find a support group for yourself. But my main goal here, I would like to propose an intervention of MFT, which is marriage and family therapy. This will consist of 12 solution focused sessions where you and I and him would talk together, the three of us, and then we would break it down and I would speak to you independently and him independently, and then we'd come back together for the session. We use a lot of role playing in this. We encourage healthy communication, setting boundaries, and understanding. I think this would be a good way for him to get involved, but for him to also get the treatment. Because at this point, it looks like, it sounds like he's kind of just pointing the fingers and putting the blame on you. Like, it's your problem. You need to fix it. You're the addict. When in reality, your scores from the DSM 5 criteria does not show, it's not indicative of addiction. So, that is, and I can share that with him as well too. But I think if we can have both parties together, we can encourage just this therapeutic process where we're learning to communicate, learning to have those healthy boundaries, incorporating each other into each other's care. And this will be a combination of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and that just addresses the way we think and how our thoughts contribute to our actions basically. So if he just thinks negative about you and that you're using and abusing and misusing all the medication that you're getting, then he's obviously going to act aggressive, angry. And the same thing if you're feeling like he thinks you're a liar or thinks you're not being honest or all these negative things about you, that's going to have a certain outcome too with your actions and outcomes. So I would like to be able to do that. How does that sound?
I guess it sounds okay. But the first one you said, um, he, you're gonna see him as a patient too. I thought I was the patient. I thought I was your client.
You are. So
So why are
we're
you gonna see him individually?
So it's just to kind of be able to separate the entities basically because if you guys both get in a room automatically and it's him thinking because again I'm not on anybody's side. Yes, I am your therapist and I'm here to help you, but a lot of times what happens when we get into a group session with three people, um, the third person that is not the client automatically thinks us two are up against them and we have this whole plan established and we're just gonna point out to him his wrongdoings and his faults. And that's not the case. That's not what I want this to be. And it is proven through a scientific method that this is an evidence based practice. So it's been used a lot with family counseling and therapy. You, of course, are my client. And the only way that I can talk to him about what's going on is if you sign a release of information, which I would encourage you to do so that we can kind of have this discussion and, you know, get things
He's just
moving a
gonna
little
fill
bit.
your head up with a lot of stuff that's not true. But okay, if that's what you think would be best and would get him off my ass, him shut him up, then I'll do whatever.
Jackie, and I don't want to put you in a position that you're uncomfortable with, so we can definitely start slow. If you're more comfortable with us having the group meetings together, and then doing individuals with you while he kind of waits back, up until you feel like you're ready to introduce him into individuals as well, we can start that process like that. I just don't want to put you in a spot where you feel once again like your back's up against a wall, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you in your situation, help you guys together, have a little bit better communication skills, understanding of each other, and mutual respect, you know? So, would you be willing to sign a release of information for him?
Not just yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Not just
So
yet.
that is going to be the intervention. So I need you to think about that. If that's the plan or the route that we're going to go with, I do need that release of information signed by today so that we can coordinate a meeting. So we do have like another a good while longer in our session. So just kind of keep it in the back of your mind. If you are not interested in MFT, the marriage family therapy, then we would just focus on cognitive behavioral with you. So that would be proposing
But I'm
changing.
not the one that has the problem. You're again saying like cognitive behavioral therapy, like it's me dealing with the issue. Um, with me not signing the release of information, as I understand it, is so that you can talk to him about me
So I
without me in the room.
it's just so that we can all have open communication because like I said, you're my client. I have a certain level of confidentiality legally that I have to keep with you. And so if he were in the room, I wouldn't be able to even speak with him. If you gave him permission to be here, that would be one thing. But I would never be able to address him independently because I'm working only with you.
Well,
So
I like that one better.
okay.
Like, I don't have a problem in having him come in and talk to us both, being that he's one of the things that I have a problem,
Mhm.
you know?
And
So he can go ahead and I can say, okay, I want to use him for this so that you can, like, so that you can hear from him what he's grabbing
yeah.
that I have. So we can do that for that appointment and say, okay, but I don't know if honestly, I don't know how I feel about you that you're not going to tell him my secrets, you know? So I don't know.
And so the release of information we can go over to, it's not a full release. You can kind of select what you want him to have access to. So if you only want him to know about your appointment information or your diagnosis, which does not include the addiction piece, then we can limit it. You can pull it at any time. So say we have an unsuccessful family meeting, you don't want him involved in the future, you're more than welcome to pull it. Um,
Okay.
but my thing is to, I know you're here because you're struggling with with him and his opinions of you. However, you kind of have that anger and resentment too, and I can hear it in how you're addressing me. So it's not when I'm proposing these ideas, I'm not saying there's a problem or there's an issue with you. However, you are coming here for some kind of help, and I want to be able to give that help to you. And if you're not interested in getting that party involved in your therapy, then I want to still be able to give you something that's valuable in the form of some peer stuff or, coaching or just some sessions that can kind of help change the way you think. Because even if he is being negative and having these perceptions and thoughts about you and putting you down, how can you change that in your head so that you're not getting distraught, that you're not upset, that you're not angry? How can you have that general realization that I am sick, I was diagnosed with this, I have these issues, I have to be prescribed this medication. You either support it or you don't. What his opinion of you we can work on has doesn't have to affect how you feel and what you're doing. And that's really, really my main piece that I want to be able to work on you with.
Okay.
Okay, so a little bit more in discussing what we'll be continuing today. Just is the intake appointment, so we're just going to review what we're doing in the future. Again, proposing that intervention. um, I will have you continue thinking about that release of information. I know you were feeling a little bit uneasy about it, and that's okay too. We might just start with the cognitive behavioral, and if couple sessions down the road say, no, I think that this might be more beneficial if we loop him in,
Hmm.
then we can do that as well. Okay.
I like that.
And then this is really just going to be a therapeutic process between us because, again, I want to be able to give you that help, build a good rapport with you, be able to support you, regardless of what happens with that additional party. So, like I said, if he never supports your medication, then we can kind of talk about that route too, okay? And then I also want to discuss kind of termination. I know it sounds scary because we're just meeting, but this is kind of like a temporary issue. We can always push out the time if we need to more. But these sessions usually do take about we're scheduled for about 12 for the family sessions if we do those. If we do independent, we can kind of play with the time between 12 and 16 sessions, which usually ends up being about 16 to 20 weeks. So you and I will get a good understanding of each other. We'll be able to again develop and build that rapport, work with each other, and then kind of just continue our work in that time. So I just want to have that intention and set that with you so that it's very clear that eventually we will be terminating this relationship. I will always be here, and our clinic is always here if you need additional services and help in the future, but my main goal is to be able to empower you to have the insight and the skills to kind of work through stuff on your own before it gets to this point in the future. So just so you know, that is something that eventually will come. Okay. And I just want to
Okay.
put that on your radar.
Yeah, it kind of was scary when you empowered me just as it was coming out of your mouth. I'm like, God, I'm just seeing it for the first time, and she's already showing me out the door.
And I know it feels like that sometimes, and that's really not the case. I just want you to kind of have that understanding, just so that when it comes to that point, then we're ready to make that decision, okay? So we're just going to do a closing session really quick. I think you and I have had a good conversation today. We did the intake assessments, completed paperwork. We're going to hold off on that release of information for your husband, okay? And then we'll go ahead and schedule some 1 hour therapy sessions, which will include cognitive behavioral therapy. And that it's not just therapy one on one. We're going to learn tools and techniques to kind of change how you're thinking versus what you're putting out. And we'll get that started within the next 7 to 10 days. I want to review a little bit of information with you too, just to make sure that I have it concrete in my head, and then I can also document it as well. Where you're coming in today presenting just because you're having some issues with your family, your husband believes that you're overusing or overtaking your pain
I'm
medication,
abusing.
you're abusing, and that he believes that you
I'm
are
an
an
addict.
addict. Yes. So, and there's really been a breakdown of communication over the years. He was never really involved in the treatment once you started that process,
Mhm.
which kind of has created a barrier in and of itself.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
even creating now a barrier for my kids because
yeah.
my kids are older, and they're like, Pops doesn't know what you went through. Pops, so they're getting ugly feelings about their dad because they're seeing that their dad is not helping me, but it's putting me down. So it's causing a rift between them.
Yeah.
And that relationship didn't need to have any strain because it was strained on its own.
Uh,
Yeah, so now this is one of the reasons that I'm actually here is because I saw my kids being dragged in, just like, look, I'll call James. Let's call James and see what he thinks. Or let's call Jeremy. How about we talk to Jonathan? So he brings them in when, like, the older two were there from the beginning.
yeah.
So they know everything that I've been going through. So they look at him like, why is he being an ass? So it is causing, they didn't have the best of relationship.
Yeah.
And now it's really, I mean, the only one that lives with me is my youngest, which he's 24. But my other two, one lives in Virginia and the other one in Jersey, they're to the point that they don't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not gonna touch that.
So it's not just a you and your husband issue, it's becoming a whole family issue, which
Exactly.
is huge. So maybe in a couple sessions we'll touch more on the family piece. It doesn't have to just be family, you and your husband. We can even bring your boys in or do a Zoom with them if you want to feel that would maybe help, just so we can kind of clear the air and establish those again healthy boundaries. Our immediate next step, I'm gonna send you to the front with the request to check out. Just let her know that I'll be seeing you in a week. Is that okay? So 7 days. So we'll meet again next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
What's a good time for you?
Next Tuesday.
So our office hours are Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4:30 p.m.
Okay, on Tuesday, next Tuesday. Same time actually, if you have available.
Yeah, so we'll do 10:30 to 11:30 next
Next
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
okay?
Okay.
And that just take this appointment reminder up to the front, and they'll actually get you on my books, okay?
Okay.
And then in that time, um, I also would like you this week. I'll send you with a journal too. When you're feeling pressured, stressed, unhappy, when your partner is just kind of putting you down, I want you to just in that notebook kind of write the time and date in the situation. And then if you want, we could review that next week so we can kind of start figuring out trigger points and stuff. Okay, so that'll be
Oh,
our immediate next steps.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
Alrighty, and then we will see you for the first of our 12 sessions next week, okay?
Okay, Samantha, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Jackie.
much.
We'll see you next week,
Okay,
okay?
okay, you have a good day.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. You do 20?